Welcome to the Brent Gove podcast with co-host Eric Lofholm. We are building 1 million agents in 100 countries in 10 years. Now, here's your host, Brent Gove.
And welcome to the big show. I'm Brent Gove, and I got my illustrious co-host, Mr. Eric Lofholm. Eric, how you doing this morning?
Hey, Brent, I'm doing great. Excited to be with you today. We're talking about facing adversity and overcoming struggle. So get it started off.
Absolutely, man. I think this is a topic that's near and dear to both of our hearts because we both.
Oh yeah.
Look at you. You're looking good. You're dressed good. Everyone meet you who would meet you, Eric. You're one of the top Tony Robbins guys at one point in your career. Then you went off and did your own thing, and you're kicking butt and taking names. Everyone looks at you, thinks you've never had a struggle, you've never had a trial, you've never had a tribulation, you've never had a dark night, or you're just praying for the sun to come up in the morning. And I think that's, people look at everyone else and they just look at their Instagram posts, they look at their pictures on Facebook, and they don't realize everybody struggles, And so today's show is dedicated to people who are struggling, people who are fighting depression, people who are feeling hopeless. We want to get you hopeful, and we want to take you from where you are to where you want to be. And we want you to know that if you are struggling, that's normal. Everybody struggles at every level. Richard Branson, I was just by his island out in the BVI's, British Virgin Islands. I sailed by on a yacht. Today I'm in Hawaii. I'm doing this podcast from Waikiki at the Sheraton right on the beach in my beautiful suite here. Life is good, yep. But Richard Branson struggles. I guarantee he may have a health struggle. He may be struggling with the relationship with one of his children. You never know. You think nobody struggles. I mean, Elon Musk, whether you like him or don't politically, the man was loved by the world, and now he's hated by 20% of the world and loved by 80% of the world. But he's struggling with that, and people want to burn down his company. And so he's not even a billionaire; he's a trillionaire. So everybody has their struggles. And so today, if you how do you struggle? Well, there's the 5 big areas of your life. There's faith, there's family, there's fitness, there's finance, and there's fun. Let's start with the bottom one, fun. How do you struggle with fun? Well, maybe you're just working 24/7. Let's start there, Eric. I think work will expand to consume every minute, every hour of the day you give it. If you want to work 24 hours a day, it's totally doable, but you'll burn out, you'll blow out, and you'll destroy your family. It just won't be worth it. And so maybe you're struggling with feeling like you deserve time off, that I don't deserve this. I need to work. And I get that. I mean, if you can't buy groceries for your children, your kids are starving, you do need to work. I think you do need to work. If that means you need to work 24 hours straight or 48 hours straight to feed your family, then mama's got to do, daddy's got to do what daddy's got to do. But most people just work incessantly because they have something to prove. They feel insecure. They're, they don't know how to say no. They're overly competitive. And so, if you're struggling, you need to know that you're not alone. That if you're fearful, usually what you don't want to do is exactly what you need to do. And you got to realize that if you keep doing what you've been doing and keep thinking what you've been thinking, you're going to keep having what you've been having. You're going to have the same emotions. You're going to have the same paycheck, and I would hear people say this, Eric, and I want you to chime in a second, but they would say, look, you're being paid in direct proportion to the amount of value you're bringing society right now. And so how many of you excited about that, dude? It's like, well, I'm not being paid very much. Well, then you got to go, how do I bring more value? And I have a great story to illustrate that. But before I do that, I'm going to give this back to you, Eric, and just let you talk a little bit about the struggle bus and how being uncomfortable is where your future really lies.
Yeah, I'm a coach, and I've done thousands of one-on-one coaching calls, just being with people and hearing what's going on with them. And I don't remember exactly what coaching session it was on. Maybe it was 987, but I was like, everybody I talk to, they've got struggles. I've got struggles. I'm normal. There's nothing wrong with me. And that was a big breakthrough to realize there's nothing wrong with me. And I've gone through my fair share of struggles. Just one, I've shared this with you before. There was a period of time for years my son would not speak to me. And it was heavy on my heart, and it was challenging the family, and it's just the way it went. And no one knew that unless I told them. And the Facebook photo looked really good, the family. But what was really going on behind the scenes is we were not speaking. And so you just never know, what people are going through. And if you're going through struggle right now, just know it's totally normal. We're all going through it, and it shows up in different ways for different people. And, I'll just leave it at that. I'll turn it back to you.
Yep. So I think the Bible says in this world there'll be trials and there'll be tribulations. It rains on the just and the unjust. And so I talked about bringing more value. When I was 17, my dad coached me up a little bit, and he said, "Hey son, who you working for?" Did I tell the story on the last podcast? I feel like I did. Did I tell the story?
I think you might have.
Back, maybe. All right. Well, long story short, he challenged me. I said, "I'm working for Mr. Anderson, the owner of the gas station." It was a little non-branded gas station, a little grimy, dirty. And he goes, "No, son, you're not working for me. Who are you working for?" I'm like, "I'm working for Mr. Anderson. I know the guy. I'm definitely working for him." And he goes, "That's the problem. The Bible says, do your work as unto the Lord." He goes, "You're working for God." And Matt, well, how would you show up at that job, at your job, if you actually were working for the King of Kings and the Lord of Lords, And if you don't believe that, fine. But how would you show up in life if you who's your hero? Mother Teresa, Martin Luther King? If Mother Teresa owned that gas station, or Martin Luther King, or the Pope, and I know the Pope just passed away, God rest his soul. But somebody really, if they owned it, how would you show up for them? Would you just show up, do the basics? Which that's what I was doing at 17. They said, take money from people. They put gas in their car, they drive away. You say, thank you. And I was doing the basics. I was doing what they told me to do. So when he asked me who I was working for, and I go, oh my gosh, do your work as unto the Lord. I go, I think I would show up differently. So I scrubbed the toilets in the bathroom. I scrubbed the bathroom. I picked up all the trash on the lot. It was one of those asphalt lots, but it was a really old one. So it was like pebbles everywhere and trash everywhere, and beer cans and nacho wrappers, and it was dirty, and it wasn't in the best part of town. That lot was perfection. I spent hours cleaning the lot. I spent hours cleaning the bathroom. I spent an hour scrubbing the windows inside and out, where I take the money, and I even scrubbed and washed the pumps. They hadn't been cleaned in years. Long story short, Mr. Anderson was like, "Who did this?" And I'm like, he was so free. He's, "Who did this?" I'm like, did what? He goes, "My gas station's sparkling. I've never seen it look this good, not ever since I bought it." I go, "Well, I did it." And he's like, "You're my new manager." Boom, just like this. No interview, nothing. So in other words, I got a pay raise. Things happened because I changed the way I was showing up. So let me ask you a question. How are you showing up as a mom? How are you showing up as a dad, as a husband, as a wife, as a brother, as a sister, as a son or a daughter, to show your parents respect? They don't deserve it. You should show them what respect you could show them. So how you show up in life, how you do anything is how you do everything. I always hated that quote. I think it was so weird. How you do anything is how you do everything. Kind of true. Are you late all the time? Are your finances a mess? Are you disorganized, or are you purposeful and intentional? And so I think where I want to kind of wrap this up today is this: you know what you need to do. And if you don't, go away with an iced tea or a cup of coffee or a hot green tea or whatever your jam is, and sit down for a couple hours, 2-3 hours, with a yellow notepad and go, what's the one thing I can do this year in 2025 or 2026 or 27, whenever you hear this podcast? What's the one thing I can do that would move the needle the most in my life? And it will probably scare you. It probably means apologizing to a family member, maybe a son, like in Eric's case, maybe a daughter. I had a run-in with one of my daughters. I have 8 kids, trust me. We all go through stuff, and we're so close today. But there was time where it was a lot of pain, and so maybe you need to apologize to your husband or your wife, or maybe you need to get to work. You've been watching too much YouTube or Netflix or Hulu Plus, or you're an Amazon Prime Platinum member because you watch 18 hours a day TV. You got to, I need to completely stop watching all social media, and dad's got to get to work. Mom's got to get to work. And it doesn't matter what you feel like. I don't feel like doing an open house. How about you go do an open house and you put out 50 signs and you take 2 hours putting the signs out. And every road you drive by is leading to your open house. And then, well, only got 30 people. Well, how many did you normally get? 3. Well, I'd say 10xing your 3 to 30 is pretty good. But it was a lot of work to put out those 50 signs for 2 hours. Isn't that a little excessive? Well, look, if you keep doing what you've been doing, you'll keep having what you've been having. Do the same old predictable results, routine, get the same old predictable results. Now, if your results are exceptional, keep doing it. But for most people, they'd like to do something different. Same thing if you're feeling depressed because you're feeling depressed, that you're feeling depressed. If what you focus on expands. If you think your husband's a bum, he's a bum, and you will find every little thing he does that you don't like. Same thing with your wife. Oh, my wife doesn't do this, and my wife doesn't do this, and John's wife does that, and John's wife does this. And you compare to somebody else's wife, and of course you compare her to this guy's wife's strengths, but your wife has strengths that she doesn't have. But you don't do that. Oh no, because you're focused on what's wrong. And so I think in life you get what you think you deserve. Why do people collect tickets at a parking garage for years and collect $8 in a car? Because that's what they feel like they deserve. I would never do that. I would do it if I had to, if there was no other choice, but it would be a very limited time. I'd be looking for the next thing and the next thing, and I would do what I had to do. So you need to get a ticket on the struggle bus. You need to suck it up. What is your dream? What is your goal? Sometimes you got to move. You're not a tree. You're not stuck where you are. You could uproot and replant another city, another state. Who you hang out with matters. Hang out with people who push the envelope. I know Jordan Peterson said this: if you want to live an adventurous life, sometimes you got to dance on the edge. And that means getting uncomfortable, being uncomfortable. Get comfortable being uncomfortable. And like, I don't know if I want to do that. Well, then continue to live your life of quiet desperation. And you were made for more. That's what my real estate team is called, by the way. It's called Made for More. And I want you to know, Eric and I want you to know on this podcast, you were made for more. But what are you reading? Well, I'm not reading anything. Okay, that's a problem. Order 6 books. You're going to read 10 pages a night for the next 30 nights. That's 300 pages. It's the length of an average book. In the next 6 months, you'll read 6 pages. But your input equals your output. What are you putting in? Same old thoughts, same old predictable results. How about new thoughts and hanging out with new people who are putting, you can hang out with new people who do drugs and cheat on their spouse. And chances are you'll start doing drugs and cheat on your spouse because everybody knows doing drugs and cheating on their spouse. I don't hang out with those kind of people. I make sure I don't get around those kind of people. I don't want that in my life. I don't want to be 99% faithful to my wife, and I don't want my wife 99% faithful to me. And so I want to be 100% faithful to my wife. I want her to be 100%. So we hang out with couples who have healthy marriages, and they're fighting for their marriage, and they're fighting for their families. I leave Thursday for Phoenix. I'm going to a group called the Dinner Table. It's a group of about 50 entrepreneurial families from all over the world. And we meet 3 times a year. We're meeting in Phoenix Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and we fly home Sunday. And we hang out. We talk about how to leave a legacy, not just an inheritance. Everyone does estate planning. And if my son's on drugs, he can't have any more money until he gets off drugs and he's been sober for 6 months, and then he gets a little bit of the money. And they always talk about that estate planning. What are you going to do? What are you going to do? And if I die and the kids turn 18, do they get it all? No. They get just enough to get them through college. And it's estate planning. And I'm not saying it's a bad thing. It's a good thing. But I think there's more to life than what you leave your kids. I think part of what you leave your kids is a legacy. And that's what the dinner table is about. I didn't really think about that till I got around this group called the Dinner Table. And it's all about family values. What does our family stand for? What kind of a difference do we want to make in this world? And so it's a struggle to have a family you want to have. It's a struggle to have a tight in shape body. You go to the gym, lifting resistance creates the muscle. Same thing, the self-respect, the street credibility, the self-confidence, self, but it comes from the struggle. And self isn't a bad word. You ever meet someone who lacks self-confidence and they're super insecure? Everyone's like, oh, you're all self. Okay, let's go the other way. Let's find someone who does not have self-confidence. Now, my confidence is in the Lord, but I do have some confidence that because of him, I can do X, right? And so people who lack self-confidence, when you get around insecure people, they're super unhealthy. They do crazy stuff. Sometimes they got to put you down to make themselves feel good because they're super insecure. And you're like, why do I feel terrible when I'm around this person all the time? You need to get away from them. Hurt people hurt people. If you can help them, great. But if this person's like, I go, you just, the principle of vacuum, get rid of what you don't want to make room for what you do want, right? If you're around negative, toxic people, get away from them. Now if you're married to them, go to marriage counseling, go to a couples retreat. If they're your children, go on a date with dad, a date with mom, figure it out, spend time. How do kids spell love? Time. Well, I don't have time. Yes, you do. You have time. There's time to do it all, but I'll have less time to work. Yep. And you'll get more done in that less time. And because you're like, because you know it when you're ignoring your family, when you're ignoring your spouse. You know it when you're ignoring your body and you're not healthy, you're not eating right, and you're smoking or drinking. I need to make some changes. Do those things, but it's hard. Yes, the life of fulfillment, a life of success means I do hard things. And if you're a Christian, then you get to do them with the Lord because the Lord will strengthen you to help you get those things done. And if you're agnostic or atheistic, figure it out. I don't know. You got to figure it out. But, anyways, I hope today was helpful for you. Any thoughts or did I trigger any questions or comments from what I said?
Yeah, I'll just share one thing that it's present to me literally today. I have a whiteboard where I write my ideas down on, and I wrote it today. And I've been working 6 days a week, and I want to go down to 4 days a week. And I wrote down, 10 hours a day, 40 hours a week. It's enough time to get done what I need to get done. And then have 3 days off to do all whatever.
Come on.
So I haven't been thinking that until today. And then you were talking about, excessive work. And I was like, 40 hours is enough to get it done. And to your point, if you give yourself 70 hours, then you're going to fill 70 hours.
Yep.
And you're really great about, how you set up your life. You're very intentional, life by design. I love how you have it set up. So that's something I'm personally working on. If any of you out there, you're struggling like me, you're working too much, then set your life up in a way where you get the systems and you get the business in a way where you don't have to work so many hours and you got the time for the family and your fitness and whatnot. So
can I say something at that point, Eric?
Yeah.
Not to interrupt you, but
sure.
You've never had a coach. And let me tell you what, Michael Jordan had a coach. Tiger Woods had a coach. Wayne Gretzky. These guys have, mental coaches, like get your thinking right, the inner winner. If you're thinking I'm going to miss, you're going to miss. If you think nothing but net, Michael Jordan, nothing, you're going to make it, Tiger Woods, when he's putting from 40 feet, he's like, I'm good balls going in the hole. I'd be thinking, man, I just want to be close. Don't embarrass myself. And so they have swing coaches. They have putting coaches. They have, Michael Phelps. He had a stroke coach for taking those long strokes in the pool and being one of the greatest Olympic. So if you've never had a coach, I want to encourage you, reach out to Eric. He's a real coach, one of the top Tony Robbins people on the planet. And ask him, hey, do you have group coaching? Do you have individual coaching? What would it take if I start with your coach? I got my first coach back in the 90s and it changed my life. I've had many coaches since, and coaches help you see what you can't see. You're blind to it. So Eric, and he didn't know I was going to do this, but that's why I interrupted him because I know he's about to wrap it up. But Eric Lofholm is his name, Lofholm. Eric, ERIC, Eric Lofholm. Eric, how do they reach you? Do you have an email? Do you have a phone number? Your website? How do they reach you if they want to consider coaching with you?
Yeah, saleschampion.com is the website. Easy to remember, saleschampion.com. You can find me there, or you can just shoot me a text. That's how Brent and I communicate. Text, just 916-626-1945. I've worked with a lot of real estate agents over the last 20 plus years, and it starts off with a free call. We just have a conversation and get to know each other. Oh. So if that speaks to any of you, I'd love to have a conversation with you.
Absolutely. So grab a pen. That's 916-626-1945. Did I get that right?
You got it.
So grab that pen. I'll say it one more time. Here's your chance. Get your phone out. Type it in. 916-626-1945. 1945. I do not make one dime if you coach with Eric. I care about you. I know if you've never had a coach, or maybe like the current coach you have isn't working out, you go through times where you just got what you can from one coach and you may be different in an area. I just paid somebody $30,000 for health coaching because I've identified it as the number one thing to move the needle in my life. Last month, I paid $30,000. And they go, well, that's a lot of money. Well, how many of you would buy a $500,000 condo for $200,000 because you could instantly have 300? Yeah, I'd do that. Well, I think that me being healthy and living for my family is more important than having $300,000 worth of equity in a condo. And you'd come up with $200,000 real quick, but you won't come up with $30,000 for your health. Me, I came up with the $30,000 because I know how important that is to my family. So reach out to Elle. That was saleschampions.com. If I got the website.
Sales
right.
Champion, no S at the end. Saleschampion.com.
Saleschampion.com. Coach with Eric. Do it and start your journey to a better tomorrow. It won't be the end all do all, but it's going to get you pointed in the direction you need to go. And you need to take action. Tony Robbins says take instant, massive action, which means you text Eric right now, 916-626-1945. Text him right now. Do it now. You will forget this in 10 minutes and you won't remember it next week. Do it now. Take instant, immediate action. This is how I've gotten places in my life where today, it's a pretty incredible life, but it was marred with failure and struggle. And don't be surprised. Say, yep, Brent said this would happen. You start saving money, your car hears about it, it breaks down. You get $1,200 in the bank, lo and behold, the repairs, $1,200. It's hilarious how it works. Anyways, Eric, thanks for helping me do this today. I'll let you wrap it up like you like to here.
Absolutely. I always love to end the podcast with listen to this podcast multiple times to put the best ideas into your subconscious mind that were shared today. Also encourage you to share the podcast with your team and with your organization so they can benefit from what Brent had to share with everybody today. Thank you all for listening. We look forward to connecting with you on the next podcast. Bye for now.
See you guys. Okay, so here's the deal. We have incredible information, video content on my YouTube channel. Go over there and make sure you subscribe. And it's vital that you ring the bell. If you ring that bell every time I put out new content, it's actually going to notify you and you can get the latest and greatest of what's happening at EXP. Now, don't forget to like me on Facebook so you can also get that content, and then follow me on Instagram. We're hitting everybody high, low, and in between. We're trying to get the information out there so you can build big businesses, revenue share organizations. So go to YouTube right now. Please subscribe and ring that bell. Like me on Facebook and follow me on Instagram. We'll see you out there.